guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this afternoon's live stream. And last week was a little bit of a quiet week in the transfer market for Chelsea, but this week things seems to be hotting up and a lot more stuff seems to be happening. We've got a packed show as always. The latest on Wesley Fofana, who's told Leicester City he wants to leave. We've got the latest on Chelsea's pursuit for Anthony Gordon, as well as, Aubameyang, all other targets, etc. Plenty to discuss as always. And I've got two great guests with me today. Thanks for joining me, boys. Got Jem in the house, which is fantastic, and joined by Pys as well. Jem, I'll come to you first, mate. Chelsea's pursuit of Anthony Gordon, obviously a bit of a strange one from my perspective. It sort of broke kind of after the Spurs game came out that initial bid had been rejected for around £40 million, and then kind of confirmed by Matt Law today that a second bid for around £45 million has been rejected. Not sure whether Chelsea are going to go back for a third bid or not. From my perspective, mate, I don't really get this one. I mean, Gordon, yes, an exciting, promising talent. 51 appearances in the Premier League. I think it's 3 goals and 4 assists or the other way around. There's potential there. But for me, it doesn't make sense in two reasons. One, he's not moving the needle for me in terms of improving the front line currently. And when you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi on the books at the club that is arguably actually probably better than Gordon right now, or a similar profile who can't actually get any minutes and wants to move out, the fact that we'd be looking to bring Gordon in, it doesn't really make sense to me, Jim. I mean, what are your thoughts surrounding the deal? And do you expect Chelsea to go back with a third bid potentially?
I think you've got to look at all the players that are sort of leaving the football club at the moment. Callum Hudson-Odoi wants to leave, Ziyech wants to leave, Werner's gone, Lukaku's gone on loan. We need players. We need players in the forward line, and it's going to now fall down to their specific targets. I'm assuming Thomas Tuchel wants this one as well. When you look at the profile player, I think you can only look at how young he is. There's a lot of raw talent in the boy. I think he is a good player. I don't think he's 50 million's worth, but, I think he is a good player. He can grow into a very good player, a top player under Thomas Tuchel. I think he will be utilised a little bit like the Rafinha idea, which is what I still feel Chelsea want to do in terms of maybe using him as like a backup wing back option and playing him further up the pitch as the right-sided forward as well. The thing that strikes me with him is he's got pace. He's quick, he's direct again. And I've said that I've always wanted someone that's very direct, and I feel that he would be that with Sterling as well, and then maybe a Mount or Havertz, whatever in between. But when you think about how he fits the system, it's like you buy a player like that, unless you actually play him, unless the idea is to play Reece James as a right centre back and completely not play him as a right wing back and have Gordon as a wing back, then you're going to switch the system. Because you're not going to bench Mount. You're not going to play Mount up front. You might play Sterling up front and play Mount off the left, but that means Havertz ain't going to get in the team, which I'm not saying he deserves to because he hasn't had the most greatest performances. But when you look at the player himself, I think he's a good player. I just feel that a lot of these players, especially around now, are very overpriced because we're coming up to the end of the transfer market. And I just don't want us to get collared by the balls. Do you know what I mean? And to pay for things because we know we need to sort out a situation when we could maybe wait for a window and just bring him in for maybe a little bit less or on a better deal or offer a different player or, you know what I mean? Because we have Ruben there as well. And Ruben, I think is going to be utilised as a wing back only now moving forward. I don't think they'll look at him as a midfielder. Might do now Kante and Kovacic is gone, but still not 100% sure on that. But yeah, I think he's a good player, but I'm not sold on the price, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, I would agree. I don't think he's necessarily a bad player, but again, we'd be paying, best part of 50 million quid for potential only. I mean, Pys, what do you think about this one, bro? A little bit of a surprise, I think, to a lot of Chelsea fans. Obviously, as Jem was saying, he's a talented boy, but as I said, with Hudson-Odoi on the books as well, not really getting any minutes, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek showing that he can do a very solid job at right wing back. I've never seen Gordon play right wing back. I've not watched all his Everton games, so I think he's very much, across the front line. I mean, what do you make of this move? And do you expect Chelsea to go back with a third bid, maybe involving a player or so, but maybe the Michy Batshuayi, obviously Conor Gallagher maybe on loan or Broja or someone like that? I mean, what do you expect the club to do now?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think Everton's stance is that obviously they're saying he's not for sale, but Leicester have said that about Fofana. I mean, every player has a price. Already sold Richarlison already. I mean, look, I like him. I think the price is ridiculous, to be honest with you. I think we're, again, just paying for potential. Yes, Ziyech will probably be leaving. Werner has left, but Yeah, I don't know. It's also a weird one because whenever I've watched Gordon, he's played off the left and not the right hand side. So that's where he's always really played for Everton. So I don't really get this kind of right wing back, right wing sort of hybrid thing because he plays off the left. So yeah, I like him. He's direct. He's not the biggest of goal threats. Like he's a good player, but he's not worth 50 million, 40 million. I'd probably pay 20 million max for him.
Yeah.
But this is a player that you know is one like when you talk about value, it's the value to the club you're buying from. So I guess that's why they're asking for so much. And for me, look, I think there's other alternatives out there, but I trust Tuchel's decision making. All the signings have been really good so far. I definitely think it's going to be one of those ones where if we do buy him, we're going to get scrutinized quite a lot by other
Yeah.
fans and pundits, and it's going to be one of those ones where he's going to have to prove that he's worth that price tag and that he's going to be a really good player for us. So on the face of it, it's quite annoying, to be honest, because you have to wait until he performs for Chelsea until people will settle down on it. But even still, I think, yeah, the price tag is quite absurd, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, just on him, Pys, do you expect Chelsea to go back with a third bid? Do you think they're that determined to get Gordon on board? I mean, I've seen kind of several reports saying that potentially, if 50 million pounds are on the table, then that might lead to a bit of a breakthrough in discussions. I mean, what do you think Chelsea's stance on this is going to be? Because obviously, it depends how much Tuchel and Bowley want him. Are saying that Chelsea are keen to try and sign as much young English talent as possible. Gordon obviously fits that bill, but I don't really see where he fits in the squad this season because he's not going to be a starter. He's just going to be someone that sits on the bench most weeks.
Well, I don't know about that, mate. If you pay £50 million for a player, he's definitely not sitting on the bench, in my opinion.
Well, who's he displacing then in the lineup?
I don't know. We might change formation. I'm not sure.
Mm.
It's definitely. I'd see what you're saying, but we ain't paying £50 million for a bench player. That just doesn't happen in football. We're not Man City, so I don't want anyone to make that comparison either. Tuchel is not Tuchel is not benching a £50 million signing. So, yeah, it'll be very, very interesting if we do sign him. But yeah, look, we definitely need more forward options. It's just obviously, I know people saying, well, why don't we buy a striker? Well, we're looking for a striker as well. So it's not, a case of one or the other, which I guess is a positive. But yeah, I just think in the Premier League, bro, like, is he really the one to go for? Like, I know he's young and stuff, but like, you got the likes of Zaha. I'd rather we bid for Neto as well, to be honest with you. I think he's a miles better player than Gordon, and he's young as well. So I don't know how much Wolves would want, but there's other alternatives out there for me if we're looking for sort of a versatile winger.
Yeah, no, mate, I would agree. I mean, Jem, obviously, if Gordon were to come in, obviously, we'd fully back it and stuff. But as I was posing, how would you see him fitting in? Do you agree that if we spend £50 million on him, do you think he does start, or is he just going to sit on the bench? We've seen Spurs spend 50 million on Richarlison. He sits on the bench. City obviously stockpile a lot of players with big money on the bench. Calvin Phillips, almost 50 million quid, stays on the bench. Do you think if he comes in, Gordon is a starter?
I think his rotation.
Yeah,
I think he'll play games. I think you don't spend 50 million for him to not play. But at the same time, it depends on the opposition, the type of system we play. And when you look at how we played against Spurs, where we like to switch systems in between games, I think what Chelsea are trying to do is find players that have that quality. And I think when you look at Gordon, he's unproven. The problem with him is he's unproven because of where he's playing. It's very hard to judge what type of player you're going to get. But at the same time, it could be that we spend 50 million and he becomes an absolute star. Do you know what I mean? And maybe Chelsea and Tuchel and Bowley see that. I think he will play off the left. Also, but as an option as a wing back, this is why I feel like he can be utilised again, adaptable, being able to cover in certain positions. He can play off the left, which means Sterling can play off the right. Now, a lot of Chelsea fans want Sterling on the right because they feel that you get better Sterling from that position. That's up for discussion. But yeah, you don't spend 50 million on a player for him to just hold bench every game. Like, he's going to start games 100%. And when you look at how many forwards we were left with, Mount, Havertz, Sterling, and if it was Gordon, and then maybe Pulisic, who's also in the talks about maybe going, but I don't think he will. But it does leave us quite tight, especially if we get injuries up there.
Yeah, no, for sure, mate. I mean, mate, what do you think of Chelsea's kind of change in tact, Jem, of going kind of for a lot of young British talent now? We've seen the likes of Chukwuemeka come in, obviously going for Anthony Gordon, trying to get kind of a sort of a core British young players there. What do you think about change of tack? Because it's not something we've seen that often with Chelsea. And obviously, I don't want to see us stockpiling players for the sake of it. But I think it's quite refreshing to see that, there's kind of a change in the transfer strategy. We're going for young, promising players as well as looking for the future, as well as looking to improve the present as well. I mean, are you a fan of us going for these sort of players, looking to the future as well as trying to, get instant impact on the pitch?
I think when you look at barring Koulibaly, I think Sterling's still in his prime. We have a good 5 years in him easily. But when you look at the players that we are bringing in, I do think we're looking to the future. I do think that we're looking at the profile of player and how we can bring out the potential in them in this system. And this is something that I wanted us to do last year when Tuchel first come in and we again gave him Lukaku. I don't think we've done that with Lukaku, bringing Lukaku in. I think he was bought for his name, bought for what he done in Italy, and wasn't really thought about how he fits the system. And when you look at where they're going at the moment, they're not choosing to go for the big names. Cristiano Ronaldo could have been at Chelsea if they really committed to it. Thomas Tuchel wasn't interested because, in theory, I feel that the way that they're moving is more of on a transitional basis where they're like saying, well, we're in a position now where there is some marquee players available. You can get them from a decent fee. The wage is still going to be quite heavy. Something that I think they want to try and balance is the wage structure. Yeah. I think they're going to try and have a decent wage structure. And I do think there's going to be a lot more outgoings with Chelsea as well eventually, especially with the likes of Barkley and Baba Rahman and some of these other people that are still at the football club. So I just think we need to be patient. I don't think we're like we was in the Roman days where we would just buy every top marquee signing and a couple of youngsters and then go and challenge for a title. I think we're trying to build for the future with the right players so that we don't have to continuously spend 400 million, 200 million every season. I think they're just trying to get these young top prospects in and let Tuchel work with them and see what goes there. But you do need experience as well. Don't get me wrong. You can't have a team full of youngsters, but you've got to bear in mind we still have that experience in the team now. So maybe they just feel if we get a couple youngsters in the team, they can learn from the experienced team and experienced players.
It's just finding that balance between youth and experience. You want to be able to blood in a couple of youngsters alongside the experience. You don't want it all one way or all the other way. But obviously, we'll wait and see what happens with Anthony Gordon. Potentially, we could involve the likes of Michy Batshuayi, maybe to try and bring the price down a little bit. Everton desperate for a forward player. Another one doing the rounds in the chat. Pys, your thoughts on Wilfried Zaha, mate? Is that still an option for Chelsea? I mean, are you hearing anything to suggest that Chelsea may go in for Zaha? And what are your thoughts on Wilfried Zaha? Obviously, I know he scored last night. He played well. How do you see a move for Zaha if he were to come in? Would you be a fan of that?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, last night I watched him. I'm a bit conflicted. It kind of like he scored a nice goal last night on the counter attack, but he also messed up so many attacks for Crystal Palace, especially late on in the game. Poor touches. There was one where he went one-on-one with the keeper where he took a poor touch. Thought he should have chipped it. Went through the legs. There's one late on where I think Edouard cut it back and he should have shot first time and he took a bad touch. So again, I think I'd rather Zaha than Gordon just because I think he's a bit more experienced and I think he definitely has. I think he has more raw talent. I think he definitely has more ability. Finishing wise as well, I think he's shown that over a longer period. I think he scored 14 Premier League goals last season. I definitely have my worries over Zaha's sort of attitude. I know some people say it's a bit of a myth, but for me, I know he has good pressing stats, but even last night, bro, for me, Zaha's always been a sulker. If he doesn't get past the ball, he throws his arms up. If someone misses a chance, he throws his arms up. And that can be seen as, either an attitude problem or he just really wants to win. But I know some players will definitely take that the wrong way, and I don't know if I want to take the risk on that. And also, I think Zaha is definitely someone that would come in and demand to be a starter, whereas Gordon is a lot younger and probably would be bedded into the team. But then again, I mean, when you're paying 40, 50 million pounds, I don't think he would be on the bench. So I think it's interesting. I clearly think Chelsea are going for Gordon at the moment, hence the bids. But Zaha is someone they definitely have on their radar. It's just obviously 1 year left of his contract. I don't think they've made any formal inquiries over to his price yet. But obviously Zaha would be very, very keen on the move. It's just it's a lot of different things. He again, Zaha plays sort of off the left mostly, plays up front as well. Do Chelsea want to buy that player when they're looking for Aubameyang? Would he, if Aubameyang doesn't come, would Zaha then be a better option because he plays both positions, kind of like the Werner role where he played off the left and up front? So I don't know. There's a lot of things Chelsea need to decide, but I don't think it's a case of one or the other for me personally. I don't know how many attackers we're going to get in, but I expect Ziyech to definitely leave. I think it might be later on in the window. I know the Athletic reported that Newcastle want to be kept informed on Hudson-Odoi, Gallagher, Pulisic and stuff. So there could be potentially a lot of attackers that leave later on in the window, hence why you're seeing these abundance of links.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with you, mate. I'd rather have Zaha over Gordon. We're probably looking at 25, 30 million tops compared to 50 mil for Gordon. Yes, obviously, Gordon's a lot younger. Zaha, 29 years of age. He's Premier League proven. Yes, the question's around his attitude. Obviously, until he comes in through the door, we wouldn't really know that. I mean, Jem, what are your thoughts on Wilfried Zaha? In terms of, would you rather bring him in for, say, 25, 30 mil than Gordon? And do you think he'd be a better fit for Chelsea currently for, say, 3-4 years, and then obviously, look to another solution a few years down the line? I mean, would you be a fan of Zaha coming in?
I think what we'll see in the next week or so or whatever is the route that we want to choose to go down. Because if we don't get Aubameyang, then I think we might potentially get Zaha. But I also feel that we'll still get Gordon. I think there's an option for that, and I think Zaha's quite an interesting one because I think it's a low risk. It's a low risk signing because when you look at his fees, there's not much. It's not that high for a player that's been looking for an elite move to a club for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Has just not had it. Palace are still heavily reliant on him. I feel when you look at him in games, you only have to look at what he was like at Liverpool. His finish against Liverpool against Alisson was a very good finish. I think again you can utilize him in maybe off the right, off the left, up front. And again, when you look at the style of him, he's adaptable. But again, he's direct and he attracts players to him. And I think we need more of that. I think we need that type of Sterling sort of player that can pick the ball up and take on players in tight spaces or run behind with their speed, but create as well, because that's something he can do. He can create and contribute to goals. The thing with him is the contribution to goals. At what level are you going to get it at? Because we want double digits from our forward line.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to do that in a better team? Maybe. And ultimately, I think he could help with regards to breaking these low block teams down that we struggle with. I think when you look at him and Sterling on the same team on each side as your forwards, I think that gives a defence or defences a lot of problems, to be honest, even if you're sitting in front of that. So, I don't know. It's a weird one because, people then moan, well, you get Zaha, he creates, Sterling creates and scores, but, what's going on with the number 9? Because we saw what happened with Havertz the other day where he was in front of goal and he just completely skied it. Are we going to have an issue still just killing off games because we're creating but we're not finishing? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, it will be interesting. I think it's definitely one to watch, and it is an attractive deal in terms of price and, obviously knows London, etc., knows the Premier League. So I think it would be smart business, but again, I think it depends on what happens with Gordon, depends on what happens with Aubameyang, etc. But Pys, what's the latest on Aubameyang, mate? Obviously, reports today saying that a bid should be going in this week. Barca are asking for around 30 million euros, which is about 20, 25 million pounds. Seems quite steep for someone who's 33. I don't think Chelsea are keen to pay that much money. But mate, what's the latest on Aubameyang? Are we expecting a bid to go in this week?
Yeah, various sources have said that we are going to bid. I reckon we'll probably bid around, I think they want 21 million pounds. So I reckon we'll probably bid around 14, 15. I think this one will get done just because simply Tuchel really wants him. I know Tuchel's pushing for him. So yeah, I definitely think this one will get done. Barca are keen to sell if the right bid arrives due to FFP. Obviously, Xavi wants him to stay, but they need money for FFP and other signings and registering things. So yeah, I definitely think they'll be open to sell if we bid. I'm definitely expecting a formal bid in the next couple of days, 100%. I think this one will get done before Leeds, in my opinion, because it's not really. If you see, I know he's a bit older and stuff, but if you see the amount of money, we just splashed 12 million plus add-ons on, a kid who hasn't even made a professional appearance yet. So you'd like to think the Aubameyang deal will get done pretty quickly once we submit that bid. Yeah.
Yeah, Jem, on Aubameyang, do you think, do you share Pys's confidence? Do you think he's keen to join Chelsea? And do you think Barca would be happy to let him go? Certain reports saying, he's happy to stay at Barca, doesn't want to leave. But reality is they've got a lot of attacking options there. He's probably not in the first choice starting lineup. Lewandowski is going to play, Rafinha is going to play, Dembele is going to play. Obviously, Ansu Fati probably plays as well. What were your thoughts, Jem? Do you think this still will get done? Do you think it could be done this week, like Pys thinks, before Leeds?
I don't really want to guess if we're going to get players or
Yeah.
not, especially the window that we've had. I just, to be honest, when you look at what we've been told, I can get what Pys is saying in terms of thinking it'd be done. I am not that confident that it gets done. Obviously, he knows more than us anyway, but which is fair. He probably talks to people on behind and stuff. But for me, I just feel that. I just feel a bit like the Dembele thing. I think he just wants to. I think he prefers to be in Barca. I think he'd want to stay in Barca. He left the Premier League from Arsenal, not on the greatest bounce, shall we say? Fell out of them a lot. Maybe he's got a point to prove by coming here, playing under Tuchel. If he does come, it will be the fact that Tuchel's the manager and he wants to play under him. That's the only reason I feel that he'll want to come to Chelsea. But I'm just not 100% sold on it. I think he scores goals. That's the most important thing. I think you put him in the positions that we did against Tottenham, and he probably puts it in the back of the net quite comfortably. And we need that. So, if we can get it done and it's a short-term idea, cool. But it doesn't then make sense to then go and get Zaha and Gordon. And do you know what I mean? I don't see us doing all of that. So it's just who do we prioritise out of them bunch of players that we're looking at,
Yeah, I mean, Pys, if Aubameyang does come in, do you presume that he's going to be an instant starter? Or do you think him and Havertz will share that sort of that number 9 role? Or do you think Aubameyang is going to start the majority of games? So I don't feel that his age is going to come in and accept, the sort of player he is, just being a bench player. Would you expect him to come in and start most games? And do you think he kind of, moves the needle? Does he make a difference? Is he what we need? Yes, he scores goals, but do you think we've got enough creativity to create the chances for him?
I mean, based off the Spurs game, yeah. I just think we're a bit inconsistent creativity-wise. But again, I just think he's such a guarantee. Now, I'm also a bit cautious because I went down this road with Lukaku, and obviously he didn't do very well. So yeah, but I don't know. I think Aubameyang, even for Barca, bro, he scored like 11 goals last season, like 16 starts. Like he's always scored goals, and I know it's not the best logic to use, but if you look at Tuchel, he knows how to get the best out of him. Specifically, players that he's worked with, I'm a big fan of signing. I know it was a few years ago now, but stuff doesn't change. Particularly, and he knows this league, and I think he's still quick as well. He's still got his legs. He's a bit older now, but he's still a good finisher. And I think someone like that, I mean, it even comes down to the likes of ex-Arsenal players do really well at Chelsea as well. So hopefully, I'm banking on a little bit of that if he does come as well. So yeah, I think it would be a good signing. I think as well. I mean, I had my worries about sort of would he really fit into our possession-based system, but a lot of Barca fans were saying, well, we played a lot of possession-based football last season. That's Xavi's philosophy, and he was really good. So, yeah, I mean, and again, with Arsenal, they did play on the counter-attack, but a lot of the time, especially like under Emery as well, they played a lot of possession football. He was very, very good in some of the link-up goals they had. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how and where Tuchel uses him. Maybe he starts using 2 up front a little bit more, with Mount maybe dropping back into the midfield, sort of like a 3-4-1-2, potentially we could see. But yeah, I think he gives us options as well. Aubameyang has definitely played out wide as well. He can cut him from the left and shoot. I remember that goal he scored in the FA Cup, I think, against Man City, which was ridiculous at Wembley from the left-hand side. So he definitely gives us more threat. I just don't want the price to be too high.
Yeah, no, I would agree, mate. I'm happy for this deal to happen, but the price has got to be right as well. If Tuchel trusts the player, he knows the player, Aubameyang with a bit of a point to prove coming back to the Premier League, then I think in the short term, to tie us over for a couple of seasons, and we can look to address it perhaps next season or the one after with a bit more money, then I think it's a good deal, suits all pies. But Pys, sticking with Barcelona briefly, mate, what's going on with Frankie de Jong? That's all gone a bit quiet. Last week, we were supposedly meant to have his decision. It was kind of a 50% pay cut or you need to leave. It's gone a little bit quiet. What can you bring us the latest on that? Is there any significant updates, or is it still kind of just waiting for his decision?
Still the same, bro. I think he's probably going to stay. I can't lie. I was reading a few sort of decent Spanish sources last night, and they were saying that the plan is if they get rid of Depay, if they sell Aubameyang, I think it was Dest as well. They believe they could afford Bernardo and register De Jong. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, Barca always find a way, and I think even the likes of Laporte. The thing is, Laporta wants De Jong to stay, whereas Xavi obviously would like him to stay, but he also really wants Bernardo. And then you've got to look at City's point of view. They ain't going to sell for less than, I think, probably 70, 80 million pounds. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, they're going to eventually be forced to sell De Jong, surely. And maybe that's why we're going to stay in just in case. But I think the situation is still pretty much the same, bro. There's not been any sort of breaking news or anything on it. I think what will be big is if Barca actually say to his face that you need to leave. Like, there's no possible way we can do this now. And I think that's also been the reporting from Gerard Romero, is that they haven't actually told him officially that you have to leave at the moment. So, that's why he's keen on staying. If someone tells you to your face, you need to leave, then I think things can change very quickly. But yeah, as of now, it's still the same.
I mean, Jem, what are your thoughts on the De Jong pursuit? It's getting a bit tiresome now, really, just kind of waiting around for him. But on the flip side, mate, do you feel now with the injury issues that Kovacic and Kante have got, two of our best midfield players seemingly kind of made of glass, they're going to miss large parts of this season with injuries. This won't be their only injuries this season. Do you think those injury problems almost accelerate our need to get another midfield player in, whether it's De Jong or someone else? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
And when I saw Kante limping, it actually upset me, because I actually got to saw the Kante that I've not seen in a while in playing in that game, and he just looked ready, and his hamstring goes, and you're right, the first thing that came to my head, and I think one of my first tweets after that happened was go and get a central midfielder. No Kovacic, no Kante. We can't be asking Jorginho to be playing every game again, killing him off. Conor Gallagher comes on. I don't really feel that he's potentially his position. Ruben was moved into the middle. Again, I don't really like seeing him in the six, personally, for me. We just got too many eights. That's the problem. We got too many eights and not enough sixes when you think about it, and it's just like, you'd think that, or you'd assume that Todd Bowley and Tuchel's mindset would be, right, let's sort out the midfield. I know we're going to talk about that young boy in a bit that's coming over, but Chukwuemeka, he's an 8, isn't he? He's not even a 6 himself.
Yeah,
so
box
you
to
can't
box
really
sort of player.
guys in. Maybe you could, I don't know, with a pivot, but like Football Star said, Ampadu on the books still, Gilmore on the books. These are players that can play in the 6 role. If we're not going to buy in that position because we want to save it for next season for a special someone, who, in Declan Rice, then you're going to have to accommodate. And this is why I keep saying we're not going to be able to fill all of our positions this window. We're just not going to do it. So if we have to accommodate certain areas of the team with maybe academy or whatever else, or forcing someone to play there, then maybe we have to just buy it on the chin and just accept that maybe we need to wait for that position to get the right person for that. But I don't know, like it's a weird one, I would personally, I think we still need to get a forward though. I wouldn't say that the forward down the pecking order, because we're losing forwards. So I think we need a forward and we need a midfielder. If you find a forward that can play right wing back as well and give you that option, solves 2 in 1, fair enough for a short while, then do it. But we'll have to see.
I mean, Pys, say De Jong doesn't come in, or it's not possible, mate. Do you agree with Jem and myself that given kind of how injury prone Kovacic and Kante are, we can't rely on Jorginho every week. Ruben is good in the middle, but probably he's going to be more used at right wing back. And then you've obviously got Gallagher as well, who's still relatively unproven. Do you think Chelsea still need a midfield player as well? And obviously, are you disappointed that the fact that Matheus Nunes looks like he's going to go and join Wolves as well?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need midfield options, for sure. I mean, Kante, I agree, he was amazing, but look, he started 2 Premier League games and he's pulled his hamstring. Like, it's just ridiculous at this point. Like, it's just ridiculous. And these same guys will slander Jorginho because he'll have a bad performance because he literally plays 10, 12, 20 games in a row. Like, remember last season, bro, we were so short in midfield that Jorginho was literally played every single game and he never got injured, but he definitely, dropped in performance due to how much he was playing. And we haven't even got to the point where we're playing, those games where you play Saturday and then Wednesday yet. We're just playing once a week. Once every Sunday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday, and still these guys are getting injured. Look, I hope Kovacic is back soon, because for all his injuries, he can play a lot of games in a row. Yeah, he will get injured, but he's not as bad as Kante in terms of being injury prone. Like, he doesn't pick up as many. So we definitely do need a midfielder in Brighton. I'm just confused now because if we don't get De Jong, like who do we get? Because Nunes, I
Yeah.
think, is going to Wolves. So
Mm.
although I'd watch out on that one because I think although the clubs have agreed a fee, I'm pretty sure there was a report the other week that he didn't want to go to Wolves or something. So and they did say that the Athletic did say that personal terms haven't been done between Nunes and Sporting. So maybe that's like another Rafinha situation where he only wants another club, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, look, there'll definitely be other midfielders on the list. It's just we've only really heard of De Jong and us scouting Nunes, and it will definitely become a priority. I think, especially, I think we're going to find out today, as far as I'm aware, how long Kante's injury should be. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's having a scan today.
I mean, Lakeith was saying, 3 to 4 weeks, but obviously until the scan comes, not really too sure. But Pys, just sticking on midfielders briefly, mate. Obviously, we've kind of virtually all but signed one for the future. Cesare Casadei from Inter Milan, 15 million euros and 5 million add-ons. He'll be in London this week to undergo medical tests. Obviously, one for the future, of course. I mean, what do you know about him? Is this kid the real deal? Is he decent? I mean, obviously, he must be half decent if we've looked at him and we're going for him. And do you expect him to be part of the first team squad, or do you think he'll be in a development squad this season?
I think he'll go out on loan to Italy. I think again, potentially somewhere in the Serie A where he can play first team football because he's only ever played in Inter Milan's academy. Look, he's got to be a big prospect. I think he got in the under-19 Euro team of the tournament, the same as Chukwuemeka. And look, the owners are investing in young talent for the future. I don't think he immediately comes into our team at all. I think it's probably like Slanina. He's going to go out on a few loans. One for the future for sure. It's a lot of money for one for the future, though. I think. But yeah, I think that's why. Like, I just have from now, like, I don't really have any concerns with our other transfer targets in terms of getting them done. It's because I think Todd Bowley is clearly wants or will pay the money. It will take some time, maybe 1, 2, 3 bids for some players, but clearly, eventually, they are going to come, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think he's shown that with this kid as well. Not watched too much of it. I watched a few match comps and. For me, stylistically, he reminds me a bit like Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio in terms of, I mean, he's strong, he's 6'1". He uses his body very well when receiving the ball, but he's not the fastest midfielder from what I can see. It's a bit of a weird one. He scored, I think, 27 goals in 2 or 3 seasons in the academy, so he scores a lot of goals for a centre midfielder. A lot of late runs into the box. I listened to the Italian football podcast as well about him. And one of their guys said that, stylistically he reminds them of kind of like a Frank Lampard in terms of late runs into the box and stuff like that. Scores a lot of headers as well. That's something to look out for in the future. He scored so many headers, which is a bit interesting. But yeah, I don't know too much about him. That's all I really know.
Yeah, obviously one for the future. And just guys, before we move on to Wesley Fofana, please make sure, guys, you smash the likes. Almost 100 of us in here, definitely not that many likes. So please get those likes up. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please click that subscribe button as well. I'd really appreciate it and it'd really help me out. So please do that. Let's move on to Wesley Fofana then, boys. Obviously, a slight breakthrough potentially today in the fact that he's obviously coming out last night that he was becoming a little bit unsettled with the fact that he feels that Leicester pricing him out of a move. And now it's come out today that, he's telling Leicester that he wants to leave the club. This is kind of the first moves that he's made on his side to, well, at least publicly, to kind of push this move along a little bit. Jem, do you think this is a key breakthrough, mate, now that we're starting to get stuff coming out from the players' side, whether it's directly from Fofana or through his representatives and whatnot? Do you think this is a big breakthrough now?
You'd hope so, otherwise we just wasted time again, haven't we? I'm a little bit confused with the Fofana transfer, to be honest. I know Pys and me had some disagreements on this, but I'm not going to go into the lengthy details of it. But no, look, I feel that if a player is dissatisfied or he's not happy or he feels that he's being over marketed in terms of his value by his football club and he wants to leave, but they're not willing to negotiate with Chelsea, which I still feel is the case. I don't think Chelsea want to spend that money. I keep saying it. I don't think Chelsea want to spend 80, 85 million. I know we're hearing breakthroughs that it might happen, this, that, and the other. I don't think they really do want to do that. And I think the only way that we potentially push that down is if Fofana acts himself. Why is he not putting in a transfer request? If you're that serious, just put a transfer request in. That'll put pressure on the club to sell him. And ultimately, we'll give them a bit of a rocket to go and have a look for replacements in between that as well. And you'll find that maybe we might even be able to get 10 million off the deal or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Because he's forced it. But at the moment, he seems to be taking a bit of a step back. And I asked Ben
Told them
Jacobs
to
earlier
leave,
on.
bro.
Huh?
Jacob Steinberg said he's literally told him to leave. Told him he wants to leave like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, but okay, fair enough. So then, if that's the case, if they don't acknowledge that, then what's the next thing to do? Give a transfer request in.
But
Do you know
that
what I
basically
mean?
is a
Make it
transfer
official.
request.
Yeah, I suppose, but
Well,
not from a formal perspective, is it? I want to leave. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, like, here you go. This is my request. It's it's a document here. I want to leave. Get me out of here. I want to go Chelsea. So I just feel we could maybe push it a little bit more east side. If he's done that in the last 2 hours, then fair enough. Maybe he is taking control of the situation now and he's getting frustrated. But I'm just really intrigued to see what he goes for.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what reports you look at. I know some saying that eventually they expect Chelsea to pay kind of what Leicester want. Some saying it might take a world record fee. It could become a world record fee with potential add-ons included. I mean, Pys, obviously, I think a lot of people want Fofana to come to the club. It'd be a great signing. It's a phenomenal amount of money. Now that he's kind of pushing it along a little bit, obviously, I know it's difficult because, he's only literally just signed a new long-term contract. And kind of the agreement to honour acceptable bids would have been next summer. How do you see this one going? Do you think it goes right to the wire, or do you think we can get this done pretty quickly?
We'll get it done this week, I think.
You think so? As soon as this week?
Yeah, I think we'll get it done this week, 100%.
Yeah, you really? Yeah, do you think he's played his last game for Leicester at the Emirates?
Mate, you're so confident. You say Aubameyang's coming, Fofana's coming.
It's going to be a big week, boys.
I think both of these deals specifically will be agreed this week. I'm confident on it. Yeah. I think Fofana, because the reason why I'm so confident on Fofana is because we're literally at the end game now. We've submitted 2 bids. The third bid is going to be very close, if not what they want. Again, it's just the key thing to say is structure and payment terms. So say we do bid, 80 million or something, how much of that is up front? Because if it's like 40, 30 million, Leicester are going to say, like, come on, don't take the piss now. Like, same with like Rafinha deal, right? What we did so good was what was reported that we bid 55 million, but like a lot of that, like pretty much, I think 50 million was up front straight away. So with the big deals, you usually get sort of, say with, like going back to Fofana again, if we bid 80 mil, usually you don't get a lot up front. Like it's staggered over a certain amount of seasons because it's a big deal. Like it's very rare you just pay the money straight up front. So I'll be very, very interested to see the payment terms, but I think it will be done this week just because, all the stuff that's coming out, he's asking to leave, he's unsettled. He wants to go to Chelsea. Chelsea, again, so many people have said Chelsea are preparing this third bid. A lot of sources are saying, they're very confident Leicester will accept it. So Chelsea know the price. It's just about negotiating now. And look, it's only Tuesday. I think this can get done by the weekend for sure.
Mate, do you expect? Obviously, I know it depends on the structure of the payment, of course, how much money is going to be up front. But do you expect Leicester to soften their stance slightly on a world record fee? Or do you think Chelsea could actually end up exceeding the 80 million that Man United paid for Maguire? Because it's gonna take a lot of money, and kind of Leicester are in a strong negotiating position with the fact he's got so many years left on his contract as well. So realistically, we are going to have to stump up a lot of cash. I don't think from what you understand, mate, are any potential players going to be involved, or is it very much just going to be straight cash?
I think again, I know Jem speaks to Ben Jacobs as well. I think I messaged him the other day and just asking about it, and the impression I was given just from a few people as well is that they just want straight money. Like they don't want any players really. I think Chelsea have tried that with several players. I don't think it's one of those deals where you can get it down with, like, say, I know some people are like, oh, just bid like 60 million and give them Gallagher because Gallagher's worth like 30 million and then that'll do it. And I'm just like, it's not like that. Like, like this is their best player, Maddison as well. These guys are, they bought him for like 35 million. They're going to want to make a lot of money. He has 5 years left on his contract. He's 21 years old. Like, they ain't going to soften anything, mate. We're going to have to pay 80 million plus for this guy. For sure. That's what we're going to have to pay. Whether or not separate deals can be done, I don't think that makes a difference to the overall price. I think, again, the only other thing I know is that Chelsea don't want to have that sort of price tag on his shoulders of being the most expensive defender of all time. So whether or not the base fee is sort of 75 plus add-ons, I don't know. But even so, I mean, when I read that, I was like, well, the media are going to run with it that he's the most expensive anyway because of the add-ons. So, like they did with Cucurella, right? Cucurella was bought for 55, but Jamie Carragher and Sky Sports and everyone was, they bought him for 62 million. Like, no, we didn't. We bought him for 55. Like, get it right. No one ever knows if the add-ons will be met.
Yeah, and it's also
they're not usually revealed.
And it's also like we haven't paid 50. We probably haven't paid 55 million up front either. So like it's such it's a misrepresentation when you see transfer fees on the screen, because one, they include the add-ons. Two, they just presume that they put it across in a way that makes you think that they've all paid up front when it just isn't the case. But I mean, Jem, presuming Fofana does come in and we get this deal across the line, obviously a great addition to the squad. It might be an obvious question, but he clearly starts. Where do you see him slotting in? Kind of the right-hand side of the back three with Silva in the middle and Koulibaly on the left? Or do you think he could also play centrally as well? I guess his versatility as well is quite key, because he could play centrally when Thiago Silva gets rested, because Silva's not going to play every single game this season.
Well, we say that, and he ends up playing.
This is true.
Yeah, look, I think again he's another adaptable player, and it's again a player that helps the systems that we play. We like the hybrid 4-2-2. We like the hybrid 3-5-2. We like to be able to switch between the two, and I think that's what Tuchel's going to do throughout this season. He wants to keep us unpredictable, and I think the players are starting to slowly pull at it, especially with the individuals that have already been bought into it. And you look at Cucurella and Sterling, I think that they've took to it quite well. Koulibaly looks amazing for me. I think he looks like a rock already. I think Fofana comes in, and with his ability on the ball, being able to move forward with it, I think he will adapt very quickly to this system and be comfortable with it. He's playing next to to be able to play next to Thiago Silva and Koulibaly in a team, and not be able to learn from the masters, should we say, in many ways, is like, this is so perfect for Fofana, and maybe why he's pushing it so much. He sees that Koulibaly's there, he sees that Silva's still there, and I think he has the option. He allows us to switch to a 4. I think him and Koulibaly could be the two in the middle. He gives you the free option off the right, but then what do we do with Reece James? Does he then play as the out-and-out wing-back, which means then do we really need Gordon if we're going to utilise him on both? I don't know. It depends how we're going to utilise him. So these are all question marks that are going to be interesting. And I think I do think we will buy players. I think we'll get maybe maybe one, maybe two after that Casadei guy that we've just got. One or maybe two more players. I think depending on the profile of players, I think we'll be able to get a better idea of how Tuchel may play this or not, because we know he can be unpredictable at the same time, but we can have a bit of a guess to how it might go, And I think Fofana, it's not that I don't rate him. I know players thinks I don't. It's not like that. I think he's a top player. I do. I like him. Just so skeptical when you get players like that have got such big price tags on the back of their head. I just don't like that pressure for them. I want them to come in and prove themselves at Chelsea without having to think about. I'm not saying that they think about it, but to have that, because when rivals look at Fofana next season, what are they going to look at if we buy him for 85 mil? They're just going to go, oh, he's 85 mil, he's shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always going to be the tag. And every time he makes a little mistake, it's going to be the price tag. The papers, the media, will start picking up on it eventually, like what's happened with Maguire. Now, that's why it might be a bit of a protection thing for me, but I just don't like the idea of the 85 mil personally, even though I think he's a good player.
Yeah, it's the price tag is always going to be a problem. It's just the way it goes. Like, the media are going to use it. Any bad performance goes straight back to the price tag. Rival fans will use it. It's just going to be part of it. It's something you'll have to get used to. But Pys, do you see him slotting into the back line very well? And do you agree with Jem that his signing and his versatility gives us a very good option to switch to 4 at the back as well when the time does come?
100%, mate. I want rival fans' tears. Where's where's FFP, motherfuckers? I want Fofana. I just want everyone in. I want us to have like the craziest spending window of all time, and just let everyone cry. But yeah, no, I think 100%. I know Jem disagrees with me, but I think the investment is definitely worth it for me. I think he's a very, very good defender. I think he's very, very good. I know Jem's still salty about Koundé, but it's whatever, innit? he wanted Koundé for that right centre back. He's like, I don't want Fofana's taking my boy's spot, but yeah, no. I don't know. I think it's going to get done just because Chelsea have they're just like, Bowley just seems relentless, bro. Like if we want someone that bad, like we just don't go away. We're like a pest. Brendan Rodgers can say as much as he wants. Leicester can say as much. Like, we're just there nagging him and nagging him and nagging him until it gets done. So that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, just obviously providing Fofana comes in, there's kind of been reports doing the rounds that were Fofana to arrive, Chelsea would be prepared to entertain Trevoh Chalobah either leaving on loan or potentially on a permanent basis. I mean, Jem, last season's sort of breakthrough star hasn't had a sniff this season. By all accounts, didn't have a great pre-season either. If Fofana did come in, mate, are you surprised at what's happened to Chalobah, given how good he was last season and his breakthroughs, to suddenly perhaps see him surplus to requirements this season? It's a bit of a fall, isn't it?
Why is he though? Why is he surplus to requirements after one breakthrough season? And I think he had a good season. That's just my personal opinion. I think you got to bear in mind, this boy come out of nowhere. And in the first couple of games, we were all talking about him cementing his position. I knew that he was going to have rocky moments. I just knew it. But he was going to have moments where he gets caught or he makes a bad tackle, or, the guy's just come straight into the team and asked to play in the Premier League at the highest level. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get this whole thing of like Chalobah leaving. Like, unless he physically wants to leave because he doesn't feel he's going to get the game time he wants, like he did have last season. I think he, if I'm him, I think you just work hard and you show Tuchel what you're about. I think he'll be rotated. I don't think we'll see Silva play every game. It doesn't mean that we're going to specifically switch back to a 4. What that does allow us to do, if Silva is injured or wants a break, or Koulibaly, is it allows us to like alternate it, because you can play Chalobah at right centre back. I think that's his best position for me personally. I think he's comfortable there. Throw Fofana in the middle, play Koulibaly off the left, or vice versa. Like, it just gives you the squad depth. It gives you the option to switch. And I do think he's a good player. I don't think he's not Chelsea level. He's not Malang Sarr level, is he? Do you know what I mean? Like, I get him leaving. Like, it doesn't make sense why we would just get Fofana and get rid of him and just have Aspie, Silva, Koulibaly and Fofana.
Reece
I don't
James.
think that's enough. Oh yeah, and Reece James. But then the Reece James thing is a bit still
So you've got Cucurella as well.
I mean, look, Ruben, that just depends if Ruben Loftus-Cheek plays more games than we expect, because I still feel he's going to be rotation. I think he had a very good game against Spurs, but it's just then now consistency. I think he'll start the next game, and then it'll be about, can he keep the same level? Not just him, but can they all keep the same level of performance? That's my biggest question mark. And when they don't, we've seen it with Thomas Tuchel, he switches, he changes, he puts Reece James there, he does this, he does. So why not have the option to do that if a player is a little bit lacking energy because we've got 50 games a season, or he's not, being able to play to the level he needs to? We're already lacking in midfield with Kante and Kovacic, which already means to me that we're going to have to adapt certain players in there or accommodate it unless we sign someone. So it's going to be a long season. Just have players to back them up.
No, I would agree, mate. I mean, Pys, are you surprised as well, mate, that Chalobah, if Fofana arrives, is potentially going to be surplus to requirements, allowed to move out on loan or even possibly permanently? I mean, I find it a bit strange. I mean, I'd have him ahead of Aspie in the pecking order. Obviously, I know he's not had a great pre-season, but I mean, do you honestly think the club would let him go if Fofana arrives?
100%.
I just don't get it.
No,
I don't think he's done anything wrong.
Well, he hasn't, but at the same time, bro, like,
need to balance the books, I suppose.
Numbers wise, I don't think we'll sell him, but he might go out on loan. I mean, numbers wise, in terms of the squad, like you said, I didn't really want Aspie to stay because Chalobah would have played much more. Aspie is here now. He's gonna get minutes whether you like it or not. Like, even came on at the weekend, bro. Like, Chalobah's hardly going to play, especially if we sign for Fofana. You have Reece James there as well. Even if we wanted to, I don't know, put Cucurella left centre back, there's nothing saying that Koulibaly couldn't go over to the right if Tuchel wanted to do that as well. So, I just think his path is probably blocked and he will go on loan. And as much as I do like him, he did have a terrible pre-season, and I don't think that helped his cause as well. And again, as much as it might seem harsh, he was supposed to go out on loan last season, and he got in, and he played well. But again, there was games where he did make mistakes and stuff, and I think that plays a factor into everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a mistake to get rid of him permanently. A loan deal, I could probably see that happening. But again, I think he's one to keep for the future. And I don't want to see us making another mistake in terms of the likes of Mark Gahey. Maybe not as much, but Tomori. We've seen it. Like, we've made mistakes with young centre-backs before. And I think Chalobah could be another one of those issues. You understand, we've got a lot of competition in that area. But you look at the age of Azpilicueta, you think, right, in a couple of seasons, he's done what he's virtually done anyway in terms of being able to perform every week in, week out. You've got someone in Chalobah who is a player that would probably cost 40, 50 million quid. and we've got him on our books. So I think it would be stupid to sell him permanently. And again, if in emergency, potentially could do a job in midfield. We've seen him play there a couple of times. Not saying it's ideal, but there is kind of that versatility there. So I think, yeah, obviously watch this space on Chubb. I think it would be. I do agree. I think it would be a shame to see him go, given the fact that he's not really done anything wrong. But I get both points, that we do need to balance the books. He's a sellable asset and whatnot. So yeah, it's 50-50, but we'll have to see what happens with him. But Pys, very briefly, mate, another defender that's definitely on his way out. Well, getting closer, Emerson. Again, never really been fancied under Tuchel. West Ham, I believe, have bid £13 million. Chelsea wanting about 15. Is from what you understand, mate, what's the latest on that? Is that a deal that's nearing completion?
Yeah, I just saw some ex-West Ham United employee. So if people know him, he's very
he's quite good on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very good for West Ham news. He said they are expected to still push through the move today, even though Chelsea requested more than 13 million. So, yeah, I mean, I was thinking, is Marina back at the club when we rejected 30 million and we wanted 15? Like, that is just such a Marina request. But, I mean, if they pay it, well done. Todd got more money. So, I mean, he looks smart if he gets sold, but if not, it looks terrible. I mean, I thought 30 million was more than enough. I think it's a brilliant
it's a pretty good deal, 13 million.
Yeah, someone who doesn't play and isn't in our plans. I mean, brilliant. But yeah, his news says they are still going to come back for him. So hopefully they do bid again, and then it will be accepted, I'm sure.
Jem, you happy to see Emerson depart? Obviously, not really done anything wrong at Chelsea, just not really up to kind of the required standard as such. And you think 13-15 million represents a good deal? And he'll probably go and do well at West Ham. I think it's kind of good for all parties involved.
I think we're quite lucky that he had quite a good season at Lyon, to be honest, when he was over there. I think that kind of helped a little bit. When you look at Marcus Alonso, is he still here?
He hasn't gone yet. He's not training because they're trying to sort. He's not being involved in the squad because he's still trying to sort that move to Barca. I don't really know what's happening now. I guess he's just waiting for him.
That's what I'm saying. But what was his value? I think it was like saying stupid, like 12 million euros or something.
Yeah, I think they got 10.5 million euros. I think in the end.
So like when you look at us, what we've done with Emerson, and for 15 mil, I think that's a bargain.
Yeah,
I think we've done quite well there if we can get that done. Yeah, unless we can do a straight player swap and give them Emerson, and we get Declan Rice.
Maybe in your dreams.
maybe we could try it. But yeah, it's good to see the squad getting trimmed down. There's a lot of players that obviously we kind of do need to move on. I mean, Pys, in terms of other outgoings, and the squad is being trimmed down. There's still a few that obviously need to be moved on, and some that could be looking to move on. I mean, what's the latest on Hakim Ziyech, mate? Obviously, not played a part, unused sub in the first 2 games of the season, wants to go. AC Milan, kind of the favourite destination. But, mate, is there any truth in the reports that Man United are a genuine destination for him? Or is that kind of sort of agent talk, paper talk to try and drum up some more interest in him?
No, I definitely think Ten Hag is interested. But from what I was reading, the board of Man United are kind of conflicted on it. And also, I think when you look at Chelsea's position, I know we said sort of like 8 million pounds to AC Milan reportedly, but when Man United come in, we're going to be looking for 25, 30 million, in my opinion, at least. So Premier League rival.
What about swap for Ronaldo?
I don't think so. I don't really want him to go to Man U, by the way. I'd rather, I still think he's a decent player. So I'd rather someone who I regard as a decent player doesn't go to another Premier League club, if I'm honest with you. But I mean, if he's got a brain, he doesn't go there anyway because of their, look at the state of that club.
It's a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an absolute mess from top to bottom. But yeah, I think AC Milan, there's really been nothing, honestly, for ages. I know I think they ended up signing De Ketelaere as well.
Yeah, they've got De Ketelaere, yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens on that one. I think, again, you're seeing a lot of reporting of Pulisic, Ziyech. These guys sort of later on in the window, depending on what Chelsea can do, they may be allowed to then leave. And I don't think we have to panic yet because there's still time left in the window and things can be sorted out very quickly. It's just the longer it goes on, the more you think they're likely to be loaned, which then Chelsea don't recoup money from. So it could be a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, Jem, what are your thoughts on Ziyech departing? Obviously, it's not really worked out. There's a lot of excitement when he come in for 38-40 million pounds under Frank Lampard. We've seen moments. He probably still is one of our most technically gifted players, but we just don't see it on a consistent enough basis. And his age of 28, 29, there's probably not really going to be much improvement. I think he's very much a system-based player in terms of as soon as we switched to a back four, when he played wide on that right-hand side in a front three, he looked a lot more dangerous. But I mean, mate, you of the agreement, it's probably best for him to move on. And would you be pissed if he went to United, or you don't really mind?
Don't really care. I don't really think he suits the Premier. I don't really think he suits the Premier League. That's my opinion. I've did it for a very long time. I think the tempo catches him. I don't think he's strong enough. He doesn't have the ability to take players on. He always seems to want too much time on the ball to make his passes, and you don't get that. He's had good games, don't get me wrong, where he's stepped up and scored some, decent goals and won us games. He had a little small period of form where we kind of relied on him a little bit, playing the four. But again, the issue falls back to him being a limited player. He's not able to adapt. He can't play in the three. He's better in the four. It's like, I feel we're looking, the way that we're going at the moment, I feel we are looking for more adaptable players in the team to play both systems, not only suiting one, because it doesn't benefit us when we have to play a certain way if a player can't adapt to it. And that's why Werner's gone. That's why I think Ziyech will go. I feel Callum Hudson-Odoi should go alone. I think we can all maybe agree on that, other than maybe Pys. I'm a big fan of Callum Hudson-Odoi. I know that. But how much? 20 million, I think they were saying, weren't they? Or 25 million or something, were they?
Pys, what's the reported their fee for Ziyech?
So AC Milan, it was like £10 million. But
10 million?
Yeah, so ridiculous like that.
Mate, we paid 40 mil for him. So that's like a 30 mil loss.
We've got to get at least 20.
We need 15 to 20. We can't be getting mugged off like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even worth that money. It's like, it's mad, that, isn't it? How quickly player values drop when they just don't play that well. But you'd like to think we could be getting more than that for him. But again, I suppose we have to wait and see what happens with that. I mean, Pys, any news on Christian Pulisic potentially leaving as well? I mean, obviously, World Cup year, he's featured a couple of times on the bench. He was okay against Everton, not an awful lot against Spurs, really. He's going to want regular minutes. Obviously, he's always going to be in the US squad, but he's going to want to be sharp for the World Cup, etc. Do you envisage a situation where Pulisic could be allowed to leave the club? Particularly if, say, Anthony Gordon comes in and someone else, it kind of pushes him down the pecking order a little bit more. I mean, do you think Pulisic could leave?
In my opinion, I don't think he will.
No.
I think he would be allowed to leave, yeah, for sure. I think obviously there was that report again from Jacob Steinberg the other day that Chelsea, Tuchel would happily listen to offers for most of these guys. Pulisic was one of them. But again, there's been no offers, no permanent offers. And yeah, Tuchel would love to rebrand his attack. It's just how much can you do in one window realistically? And again, I've always argued this point of, he's going to want minutes before the World Cup. Like, he's USA's main player. They're not like, even if he doesn't play from now until the World Cup, he's still starting for USA. Like, the USA fans and stuff and the coaches and everyone are deluded anyway. Like, they think he's literally like the best thing since Messi anyway. So, it doesn't. Pulisic, he's going to want match sharpness, but at the end of the day, I still think he's going to come off the bench quite a lot. I think he will be one of the first people off the bench.
Wait, do you think he's better from the bench rather than starting? Do you think he has more of an impact? I think he does as well.
Of course, 100%. His Chelsea career has proved that. Every time I think he's started under Tuchel, he's not been that great. But off the bench, he definitely is. He definitely is good. With 5 subs as well, he should stick around. But again, it's one of those ones. If you really want to leave, then start pushing because we ain't got long.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think he's one that, he'd be useful to have around. And I personally, if he doesn't leave this summer, I do think this will be his last season. I can't see him sticking around again next season with kind of limited minutes. I think he's a player that could thrive elsewhere. I mean, Jem, what are your thoughts on Pulisic? I mean, would you be... obviously, we can't allow everyone to leave this window in the attack. There's only a certain amount of time left to bring players in and whatnot. But I mean, would you be open to Pulisic leaving this window, or do you think we should keep him about?
Not if Cho, Ziyech, and Werner and Lukaku, they're all gone, aren't they? So like we are leaving ourselves a bit limited. And even if we only get one forward and we get maybe one midfielder, I think we'll probably get 2 forwards potentially. Yeah. Not sure on the midfield, to be honest. I think you do need to keep him. I do agree that I feel like he's better off the bench though. He seems to just come on and want to try and prove a point, but. Again, the biggest issue with most of them that we've seen for the last 2 seasons is they just lack consistency in their game. And, they will listen to price. We got him for 15 mil, didn't we? I think it was originally.
I think Pulisic was about 63 million quid.
You know, how much is he going to be in the market now if we were to sell him? You know,
I think we'd be lucky to get 40.
I think we'd probably get 25, 30 mil, personally.
It's not great, is it? That is poor.
You have to bear in mind, though, this isn't like from Todd Bowley's perspective. This ain't come out of his pocket. Like him getting his players off the books is actually helping the wage structure for him. Because he's the one that's paying the wages. You know, him and Clear Lake Capital are the ones that are obviously paying the wage book. So it's like maybe they're looking at it from that perspective. Well, we might not get the value we want for the player because he's not performed as well in the couple of years. But at the same time, we can then get rid of him for cheaper, get him off the book, and build with new players. I don't know. Maybe that helps.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of the outgoings. Things are obviously hotting up. I mean, last thing to finish on, lads. Pys, Tuchel reportedly close to signing an extension to his deal. Obviously, he signed an extension after he won the Champions League to take him through to 2024. Obviously, Bowley and the ownership group, understandably, very impressive how he's handled things. Want to tie him down until 2026. So it'll be another 2-year extension to his existing deal. Do you expect this to be concluded pretty swiftly, mate?
In terms of Tuchel's contract,
do you think that's something that is going to get done? I mean, talks have been underway, so it should be a bit of a formality.
I don't know. I think it might take a little while just because we're in the season. I don't think. To be fair, I'm quite surprised that they've supposedly started talks now when we're starting the season rather than
waiting a bit,
during the summer or even waiting until the end of this season. But yeah, talks at an early stage. I'm just a bit confused about the timing, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, we'll see what happens. I want to see, again, for me, a big sticking point with this is I want to see how Tuchel gets on with the new director of football there, point.
Yeah.
Because I'd love Tuchel to stay here for years. I think he's brilliant. I think he's absolutely what Chelsea need long term. But I don't know. I mean, there's definitely history with him and directors of football as such. And
didn't get on with Leonardo, did he, at PSG?
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people didn't know.
Yeah, but it was also before that as well. I think his name's like Vatska or
Jochen Vatska at Dortmund.
Yeah. So I think he had a bit of a falling out with him over certain players or signings, things like that. So yeah, we'll see. I want to see who comes in. I think now Paul Mitchell is in the front running. I think Ornstein reported that Edwards has turned down the Chelsea job. So
I think he wants to wait, doesn't he?
Yeah.
A bit of time out
unless Chelsea wait, I don't think we'll be able to get him. So I think we're probably going to be looking at Paul Mitchell now. Someone again who would fit in probably really well at Chelsea. I think with the young talent that he likes to explore and develop. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think this is something that's going to be imminent on either side, to be fair.
It's fair. I mean, Jem, are you surprised at the timing? Like Pys of discussing a new contract extension, would you expect them to wait till the season's done, or you just think it's something that they want to reward Tuchel with for kind of going through that difficult period of the club being under sanctions and obviously that extra responsibility they've given him during this window? I mean, what are your thoughts on the timing of this? Because obviously we all want him to stay, but do you think it's, as Pys said, that a new director of football, we don't really know what the dynamic would be between the two of them. Do you think it's worth holding off a little bit?
I think they probably saw the football against Tottenham and just said they're sold.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it was quite impressive, I'm not going to lie. And that was with a couple of players that are now his players in the team, Yeah. So, I don't know. It's the consistency side of it now, isn't it, really, to see how it moves forward. If I'm the new owners looking at it, is it a little bit early to be talking about new, contract extensions potentially? Maybe it's just something that they've mentioned, maybe not took too serious, just mentioned about with him. We'll have to see, really. I want Thomas Tuchel to stay. I think he's a great manager. I think he's what we need. I think we should back him. I think we should see the philosophy and the project and the idea that he wants to go down. But ultimately, with the DOF thing, I feel that he's more involved. I know he's more involved anyway because we've seen with the transfers, but I think he's more involved in terms of like that as well, in terms of like getting the right DOF as well. I think you would probably seen that there's already been discussions with Tuchel and maybe some of the DOFs that are potentially looking to come over. I think they'll try and suss that out earlier because ultimately they do need to make sure that they're on the same wavelength. And obviously we need to see that in the summer windows and in the future and stuff. So I think Thomas Tuchel was heavily involved or a lot more heavily involved in what's going on at Chelsea than people actually think, to be honest. And I think that's mainly partly to do with maybe the fact that our owners are still very new to the game and maybe they just like having people that have the know of football being involved and giving their opinions and etc. So let's see, mate. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, that seems like a good point to round out, guys. Guys, thanks so much for getting involved in the chat as always. Really appreciate it. Please make sure that you subscribe to Gem's YouTube channel as well, GNA TV. Mate, racing along towards next target 10K.
Trying to.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. It's tagged in the description below, and it's obviously on Gem's screen name as well, GNA TV. Make sure you check that out and follow him on Twitter. Guys, make sure you also check Pys out on Twitter as well for all your latest Chelsea news, and check out his website, Chelsea FC 365. Mate, what's that merchandise you're doing at the moment as well?
Yeah, so we got a lot planned for this. Shop CFC365.com. We're going to have Todd Bowley phone cases coming out soon, which is going to be really good. And also, we got a lot of designs from our designer, just general design, Pulisic, Silva.
You made me your Thiago Silva phone case.
Right,
Thiago Silva phone case?
We got one cooking, so watch
one
out
aside
this week on that. We got I think it's the old Thiago Silva, the song. So yeah, we got that text on there as well. It looks pretty good. So watch out for that. Next few days they should be up.
Right, guys, make sure you check out all that stuff. It's all linked in the description below. Lads, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Please make sure, guys, you smash the likes on the way out. Get those likes up. And please, more importantly, subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done already. But yeah, cheers for tuning in. Take care and up the Chelsea.